So I have decided today in my infinite wisdom and mercy that I am going to grace you with a few more stories of my childhood, specifically grade school and before grade school. And so if you would like to reciprocate that kindness with a like or favorite or whatever the hell you want to do, you can clap aloud. I'll take that as well. I just have to take your word for it, though. I can't actually hear you. So anyway, let's get into these stories. If you guys like these, go ahead and let me know in the comments, and I'll be sure to do more as long as I can think of some, because my life isn't that interesting. So anyway, the first one is going back way into the year, I guess it would be like 2007, 2008-ish. It was just when Pokemon Blue and Pokemon Red came out, and it was during a time far different than that. No, I don't want to get into that. So anyway, suffice it to say that my mom used to go to this workout place almost every day, and because I was too young to stay home by myself, myself and my younger brother would go with her, and they had a little daycare place here. And this wasn't just a daycare where you would go and hang out. This was a daycare of battles and of strife and of anger and of sweat and toil, in the realm of Pokemon, that is, because all of the little boys who went there would all bring their Pokemon cards and their Pokemon Game Boy games, and we would bet cards like little blackjack players or little gamblers that we were, and we would bet cards on how well you could play the Pokemon game against each other. And what I used to do is every week there would be, you know, a new kid here or there, because obviously it's working out, so a lot of the moms and dads would come in, work out once or twice, and then leave, because you get like the free membership or whatever, and like a few trial days. And so there would always be new kids filtering in and out, and somehow it was just like an unwritten rule of childhood. All of these kids knew to bring Pokemon cards and Pokemon games, even the girls. It was a huge thing. Now, what I would do is, at first when I would go there, I would always have my best cartridge, my Pokemon Blue cartridge, where I had all of my level 100 legendary Pokemon, and so then I would challenge people and then beat them, and then get their cards back. I don't think I ever lost in that regard, but we would always throw down cards beforehand, and then there would always be the kid who lost, and afterward he'd be like, "No fair, I'm playing take-backs," and all the kids would be like, "No, you can't play fucking take-backs! No take-backs, goddammit!" And like, we'd all freak out about it, because it's rough on the streets, so to speak. So we would play this, and it got to the point that people started to know that I would beat them brutally and take their cards. And so one day, there was a new kid who strut in, and he had a fat binder of cards. A fat binder of cards, that so many of which just looked tantalizing and refreshing and awesome, and I just looked at them with envy in my eyes and jealousy in my heart, and I thought, oh, that holofoil, Team Rocket, Japanese Rhydon would look badass in my rare binder, or whatever the hell I thought. And so I challenged this guy. And usually you talk shit, you just talk that way to the other kid. You're like, "Oh yeah, do you have a level 100 Dragonite?" And they'd be like, "Yeah, but I don't have him here. Yeah, but I have a level 100, Snorlax." And they'd be like, "Oh, well, that's weak, man." And just like, you talk shit. And so this kid came in, and he was new, and I made a big scene about putting down a bunch of rare cards and playing the noob card. And I told him that my entire lineup was a Rattata and a Pidgey and like a Butterfree and like a Beedrill, just like really, really bad things, and a Charmander, and then I think maybe a Bulbasaur. I don't remember 100%, but it didn't sound that intimidating of a lineup, and so he was more than willing to throw down like 5 or 6 rare cards to my like 2, because he was so sure he was gonna win. And I was like, "I don't know, man. I really don't know. I don't really want to play you. It seems like you have good Pokemon." And he was like, "No, man. I'll go easy on you. I'll go easy on you." And so I was like, "Just come on, man. Like, if I'm gonna play, at least put down some more rare cards." And so he ended up putting down like 10 holofoil rares, and I only had 2 down. And so we start up our battle as soon as we can get that goddamn link cable to work, which if you ever had to deal with one of those, they never worked, ever. Ever. You always had to just toil and just work at that for a while. And as soon as we started battling, the kid just immediately started frowning and getting angry, because what I had neglected to tell him is that my Pidgey, my Rattata, my Bulbasaur, my Charmander, my Beedrill, and my Butterfree, they were all level 100, and they all knew the best moves imaginable. And so I did that, and I completely hustled this kid out of 10 super badass cards, one of which was like the original holofoil Charizard, and the other ones weren't as cool, but they were still holofoil rares, and that, as a kid, that's like winning crack. Or I guess not like winning crack, because if I won crack right now, I wouldn't really know what to do with it. I don't think I'd go do the crack, like, that's just one of those things you don't do. Stay in school, kids. But anyway, that went on a few times, so every time someone new showed up, I would play the dumb card, then I would throw out my lineup of newbie 100 level Pokemon, and then take their cards, and get a lot of awesome stuff that way. So, if you are a 7 or 8-year-old listening, and you are in a similar situation in a daycare at a gym, which is just a strange context for this whole story to take place, take advantage of that. Make sure that you are utilizing that strategy. And Next story, it was a year later, I suppose. It was in kindergarten, and every year the kindergarten class at my grade school would go to this like pumpkin patch. This I don't even know if it was a celebration of Thanksgiving or maybe like a Halloween celebration. No, it definitely wasn't Halloween. It had to be Thanksgiving because there weren't any scarecrows or pumpkins or anything scary, which makes this story even more embarrassing for me. So I was about 7 years old, 8 years old maybe. And, or I guess that can't be right. If it was in kindergarten, it had to be before that. I got my timeline all mixed up. So I guess I was 5 or 6. Makes it a little bit less embarrassing. So I went to this kindergarten retreat, this little day event where we would go and just pick apples and do whatever the hell kindergartners do. Probably just like shoot snot on each other and pee in the bushes, or I don't even know. Well, I don't know what kindergartners do. I'm not good with kids. So we went there. And there was this certain place, there was a certain little area where you could go into this giant hay bale maze. And calling it a hay bale maze is almost understating how impressive this thing was. Imagine it like a labyrinth. It was a huge maze of hay bales that the kids would go through, usually led by a guide, and the guide would lead them through and take them, and then at the end they would pop out, and it was a good deal of an escapade. It took like 15-20 minutes to get through this thing, even with an adult leading you. And the scary part about it for me was that this wasn't like a corn maze where the sun was shining down on you. It had a roof, and the roof was made of hay bales as well. So once you walked in there, the only light source you had was a little lantern coming from your guide's hands. And this was the days before every kid had a cell phone, so it was honestly the only light you had. Even though I had my Game Boy on me at the time, it didn't even have a backlight, so I was shit out of luck if I lost that guide. And lo and behold, I was one of the last people to go in, and I was jacking off in the corner somewhere, and then I ended up losing the guide. And so for the next like 40 minutes or so, I wander around this huge labyrinth, screaming, trying to get someone to hear me, but of course nobody can hear me because I'm screaming into a goddamn wall of hay bales, and even when I reach up and try and push up, the hay bales are like too high for me to get a good push, and even if I could get a good push, my little 5-year-old arms aren't going to be strong enough to push a giant hay bale over my head and like leap to the top like a goddamn champion, like Jason out of the labyrinth after defeating the Minotaur. Man, that was nerdy. So, anyway, suffice it to say that after about, I don't want to be exaggerating too much, probably 30-40 minutes of being in there after the guides came back in and were searching for me, and how pathetic on their part. How can you not find a freaking kid in a maze that you're supposed to be trained in when he's yelling on the inside? So I hope they got fired for that, so screw them. But anyway, ended up with me getting pulled out of the maze, just weeping uncontrollably because I was so freaking scared, because it is scary if you're like a 5 or 6-year-old kid getting trapped by yourself in a maze in the complete dark, screaming, trying to open on the sides, and nobody's there, and you're all alone, and you're panicking, and you're having a heart attack, and your heart starts palpitating, and your breath gets really heavy, and you start breathing in and out really fast, hyperventilating, and your eyes start just flickering, and you feel like you're going to pass out because your head is pulsating, almost as though there's some heavy hands pushing on each side, forcing you into deeper, whoa! But anyway, that was the end of that story. It was pretty horrifying as a 5 or 6-year-old, but I'm pretty much over it now, as you can tell. But I hope you guys enjoyed these stories. If you do want more, do me a favor and rate the video and let me know in the comment section. And as always, I love you.